Great teamwork.
Thanks, Sarah. It is so good to be with you all today on Zoom. As Sarah mentioned, in this sort of dreary Tuesday morning in St. Louis, we hope it is either bright and sunny where you are, or that you are coping with the dreariness just like we are. I'm going to just start with some introductions. So my name is Lorien Carter. I'm an associate professor of practice at the Brown School. I teach in the MSW program at both the foundation and concentration level. And I am the chair for the MSW Foundation curriculum. So that whole first year of your time at the Brown School, if you're a full-time or a student who does not come in with an advanced standing, I support all of the lead instructors for all of the required courses in the first year. If you are a student coming in with advanced standing, I will get to support you through our Bridge to Brown, which is our kind of intensive summer course that starts a few weeks before orientation. And then you'll jump right in with your concentration courses. And I am joined by some of my favorite field faculty. So I'm going to invite them to go ahead and introduce themselves as well.
Good morning. My name is Alison Rico. I am one of the field faculty members, assistant teaching professor in the Office of Field Education, in addition to the mental health concentration. And my illustrious team member, Atia.
Good morning. Good morning. My name is Atia Thurman. I'm also an assistant teaching professor and part of the field faculty team in the Brown School's field education unit. My concentration is children, youth, and families. I'm also a Brown School alum, and I'm excited to welcome you all to our community.
Thanks, Alison and Atia. Sarah, do you want to do another introduction, or will we just catch up with you towards the end?
There's enough of me. We can go at the end.
All right. So we're just going to kind of walk through a little bit of what to expect when you join us here at the Brown School in the fall. So we have a mission to really engage lots of folks. So multidisciplinary faculty, staff, and students. Within the Brown School, we have students and faculty and staff who focus on the social work program, the public health program, the social policy program. But we see these as all really interconnected degrees. And so you'll have the opportunity to learn alongside of students who may be in the same or a different degree program for you. And we're doing this on purpose, right? So our reason for engaging folks is to create a better, more equitable society. Our faculty do this through leading rigorous science and through transformative education, and our staff, faculty, and students all work together for these authentic partnerships within the Brown School, within the St. Louis region, within the state of Missouri, within the country, and around the globe. We are very intentional about our curriculum, and we've really designed it to be different. We have a focus on evidence-based practice, and not just a focus on it. We have an evidence-based practice process model that we have created that we are very, very excited to introduce you to. You'll get a lot of that in the first year of your MSW program or in that Bridge to Brown course that I've already mentioned. We know that social work happens across a very long continuum. So within our curriculum, you will be introduced to micro, meso, and macro approaches to be effective. And we don't see these as dichotomous. It isn't micro or macro. All of our students need to understand that entire continuum. Now, as you move into your concentration, you may focus on a more meso-macro practice or a more micro or clinical practice. But again, we want you to understand that that's part of what makes social work different from other helping professions, is this kind of understanding that needs exist, not only within an individual, but within a community and within the environment, but also solutions exist in those places as well. We have an anti-oppressive, anti-bias, anti-racism lens that every year we are getting more intentional with and thinking about how to embed that framework within all of the courses that you will take at the Brown School. We have a lot of courses that you can take at the Brown School. One of the things that we really think is amazing is, again, because we have social policy, public health, social work within our buildings, that there are a lot of opportunities to take transdisciplinary problem-solving courses where you'll think differently about a problem and a solution from working with other people who have a slightly different lens on what the work looks like. We have a lot of different elective courses courses, a lot of 1-credit skills labs where you can get sort of a taste of something without going into a full 3-credit, 45 contact hour course in the semester. And then we think about this degree, both in terms of what we know social workers do and have done since the beginning of our profession, as well as thinking about what social workers do and will be doing into the future. So we're thinking about emerging careers in social work as well as some of the more traditional careers in social work. So we might think about clinical practice or case management or advocacy and lobbying as those very traditional roles that social workers have played since the beginning of our profession. But we also think about, how do social workers fit into community in places like municipal government? How are social workers really good data scientists, right? And so we are always thinking about this, and then again connects back to those extensive offerings as we give you the opportunities to figure out what that might look like for your career. We have a lot of concentrations here. You will see they're listed here on this slide: American Indian, Alaska Native, children, youth, and families, health and mental health, older adults and aging societies. This is your incoming cohort for the fall, is the final cohort that has the opportunity to concentrate in older adults and aging societies. But never fear, it isn't going away entirely. It's just shifting focus, which I'll talk a little bit about on the next slide. If you're really interested in meso macro, we have social and economic development, both domestically as well as what that might look like in an international or global context. Social impact leadership, really again thinking about those folks who want to be in leadership roles like program directors, executive directors of nonprofits. Violence and injury prevention, and then if any of those don't quite meet your needs as you're thinking about that emerging role that you want to have as a social worker, our students have the opportunity to individualize a concentration by taking the required coursework from one or more of the concentrations that we offer here. So, in addition to these concentrations that we offer for you, we have these specializations. And specializations are designed to let you go deeper in a particular population focus or a particular method. So you could be a children, youth, and family concentrator with a management, policy, or research, sexual health or education, systems dynamics, social entrepreneurship as a specialization. The specializations will use your electives in order to kind of give you that well-rounded concentration and specialization. So what's happening with older adults and aging societies is that it is shifting from being a concentration into shifting to be a specialization. So as opposed to the number of courses that you would take for a concentration, they've reduced that to the most really, really important ones for the work that you might be doing with older adults and aging societies, and putting that in a specialization. So what that means is that many of our students who were older adults and aging societies concentrators had a real interest in health, and vice versa. And now health concentrators will get the breadth and depth of the health concentration with the addition of the population potentially focused on older adults and aging societies through a specialization. Specializations, as it says on the slide, are optional. There is no requirement for every student to get or take a specialization. We have many students who pick a concentration and then look at, what do I want to use my electives for to kind of deepen my knowledge and experience within my concentration, and using those electives to take advantage of our extensive course offerings within a concentration, as opposed to using those for an elective in a specialization. So again, lots of opportunities to think even more broadly about what your career will look like using multiple degrees. So within the Brown School, you can get a master's in social work and public health, or a degree in social work and social policy. Those are within our school. And then across the campus, we have what are called joint degree programs. So you could pair your MSW with an MBA, with a master's in education, with a law degree, an architecture or urban design degree. And then we have 2 partnerships with a seminary in St. Louis. So you could get social work and a master's degree in pastoral studies or divinity with Eden Seminary. So lots and lots and lots of options for you here. So what does the cost of attending look like? So our tuition rate for this coming fall cohort looks like $45,700. You'll see that student health insurance is available for students who are full-time students. Domestic students can opt out of the graduate student health insurance. The health and wellness fee, whoops, I'm flipping a little bit too fast here. Health and wellness fees are also connected, and the student activities fees are listed here. What I think is really important to note is we don't want you to have sticker shock. The vast majority of students at the Brown School receive need-based or merit-based support through scholarships. And I know that Sarah Birch is a wonderful resource as you're starting to think about putting all of those pieces together and how will you end up funding a degree at the Brown School. So please do reach out to our admissions folks for support with that. So if you're in our full 2-year program, the first year, as I mentioned, is your foundation year. This is the year that I oversee. We support students to we want to get everyone sort of up to some basic level of understanding about the profession, because one of the things that's great about an MSW is you can come in with a variety of undergraduate degrees. So we have students in our program who have psychology degrees. We have students who join our program after being classical musicians, teaching physics at a high school, all kinds of ways that folks maybe do Teach for America or a volunteer corps program, and they find their way to social work. And so that first year is to really make sure that you have this firm foundation in what we do as a profession. So research methods, human behavior, both of those are courses that students have the opportunity to test out of. We have a proficiency exam process. So if you have a heavy research background in a degree program, in your undergraduate degree, potentially from psychology or human development, you could test out of research methods or from human behavior. If you test out of those courses, it opens up additional electives for you. So you'll still need to graduate with 60 credits in your MSW program, but instead of having 25 of those come from your foundation year, you would have the opportunity for up to 6 of them to come from other additional electives. The other courses that we have here do not have proficiency test out exams: social justice, human diversity, social, economic, political environment, social welfare policies and services. Social work practice, we call it practice 1, is practice with individuals, families, and groups. And social work practice 2 is social work practice with organizations and communities. So these are taken across your first year, fall and spring, and then paired with your first semester of foundation practicum, which Alison and Atia will share a little bit more about in a few minutes, is the opportunity to really have an amazing place. This integrative seminar is a course that really lets you kind of connect all the dots. So what were you learning in the classroom? How are you seeing that show up in your foundation practicum? What does supervision look like? How are you providing the organization with resources? How are they connecting you with experiences that really enhance your learning? So conversations like that happen in that integrative seminar. There are 3 credits of foundation practicum plus that integrative seminar, which is where those 4 credits show up. And then you move into year 2, and every single concentration, including our individualized concentration, has some required elements to it. So students will take a policy course, a theory course, 3 credits or 3 courses, 9 credits of practice methods course, an evaluation course, and a leadership and management course. There are options within evaluation. You could take policy analysis or program evaluation. And again, these are pretty well sorted out for you within our concentrations with a lot of options. So the practice methods courses in all of our concentrations, there are more than 3 of those practice methods courses. So you usually pick from a number of practice methods courses. Sometimes those look like tracks within a concentration. So for example, in the mental health concentration, there is a track focused on working with children and adolescents. And so the practice methods courses for that track are different than for the mental health concentration that is not focused on, doesn't have a track focused on children, youth, and families. So you'll see that within the curriculum, that there are lots of options built in within this standardized format. If you individualize, then you would choose a policy course from a concentration that already exists. You may choose the mental health policy course. You might choose the health theory course because you really want to pair that integrative behavioral health perspective in your career. So you would choose courses from both the health concentration or from the mental health concentration. That's just an example. Most of our individualized proposals they're very different from each other. One student may be pairing health and mental health. Another student may be pairing children, youth, and families and social economic development, for example. So as I mentioned, you have those 9 elective credits. If you choose to, you can get a specialization and kind of go deeper within a practice method. You can take coursework at the Brown School for those electives. You also can take coursework from other graduate programs across the campus. And then we have this really interesting and unique way of making sure you have access to any graduate program courses in some of our sister institutions around the city. So with Fontbonne University, with University of Missouri St. Louis, with St. Louis University, they all participate with us on what's called an inter-university exchange. So for example, St. Louis University's Master of Social Work program has faculty who specialize in military social work. And so instead of us trying to recruit a faculty member who also specializes in that to meet the learning needs of our students are able to take those social work courses, the military social work course, working with veterans from St. Louis University through the inter-university exchange. So I'm hoping that this gives you just a really broad and also a little bit of depth into what exciting opportunities await you within our classrooms. But we know that field education is as important as what we're doing in our classroom. So I'm going to turn it over to Atia and Alison. I'll run your slides. Just say ding whenever you're ready for me to move on, ladies.
That's perfect, Lorien. Thank you so much. And I'm excited to talk about field education. Field education is a dynamic, substantive learning experience, and it's at the center of your social work education. It is an essential part of your learning journey in preparation for professional practice. So social work education, public health education, MSP, Masters of Social Policy, all of them have a component of field education in your field experience. Your field experiences, also known as practicum, are an opportunity for you to apply the skills and knowledge that you're gaining through the coursework into a practice setting. So this is where you'll step out of the classroom and into the real world settings. And with the help of, this is where you get to develop those competencies that actually define our professions. So public health, social policy, and social work, we have a set of competencies. And these are the places where you start exercising and build the muscle and for those competencies, and really also helping you to develop those meaningful careers. Your field experience marks that transition where you're going into practice, and our students emerge from practicum with a host of significant skills and experiences that are preparing them for their careers. And that's why it's an essential piece of preparation for your practice. Ding. So what distinguishes the field experience at the Brown School? At the Brown School, our students have the unique opportunity of selecting their own practicum experiences. I just want to say that again. You have the unique opportunity of selecting your own practicum experiences. And this means that you have the agency and autonomy to craft the experiences that are going to be really meaningful to you. This self-directed process offers tremendous opportunities and flexibility. We've designed it this way to help you develop the specific skills and engage with practitioners and with the clients and the stakeholders and the audiences in the settings that align with your learning goals and your career interest. With the support of our field education team, you'll complete practicum. Foundation practicum is 360 hours, and then concentration practicum is 600 hours. That's almost 1,000 hours in the field. That is, again, an experience that is very unique for you. This approach has been very successful for a long time, definitely dating back to my days, which was almost 2 decades ago. And we have affiliations with more than 400 sites located across the region in the United States and around the world, and we're always affiliating more sites. And so the advisory support from the Office of Field Education, this is where you have this just wonderful team, this dynamic team that's supporting you to make well-informed selections around your practicum. From the beginning of your academic career, we're there to support you. So in your first semester, you're doing foundation of field, and that's when you get this much deeper orientation to what field is going to look like across your academic career. We work collaboratively with students, field instructors, and external partners to guide, inform, and support you through this process the entire time. And later, Alison is going to tell you more about our team and the support we offer through advising, coaching, teaching, and more. And lastly, what also distinguishes the field education experience is integration with curriculum. So your field experience and your coursework are complementary and work together to make up your entire master's program. Along with your advising team, which I think some of you have already learned about and you'll learn about later, we are your partners in mapping out how your coursework and field experiences work together to anchor you in the skills and knowledge base that you need to serve the specific populations that you want to serve, to practice in the settings you want to practice in, to create an experience that's meaningful to you. And the field curriculum, we build upon your foundation courses. So Lorien just went through those foundation courses. And field, we're building upon those courses. We're reinforcing concepts that you learn in the class. But because you're in practicum, because this is a very experiential experience, those concepts are taking on new and different meanings, and we're here to help you process that. That's a great place where seminar comes in, where you're using reflection and group discussion as a valuable learning tool. Also, just echoing what Lorien said, the coursework and the field experience are preparing you for innovative practice and emerging opportunities, because social work is everywhere. It's in every part of the world, in every community, in every sector, and we're working along so many different disciplines. So next slide. So what will you do in your foundation practicum? During your first year, you'll complete a foundation practicum in a field placement, again, of your choice. This entails 360 hours in the field, including 50 hours of direct contact hours. Now, this includes direct contact with clients, community stakeholders. It can be in person, over the phone, and via web platforms. In addition to our faculty team, you'll have a field instructor and an experienced MSW professional that's supervising you in your practicum experience. And we're all working together to make sure you're having that unique, challenging, and substantive learning experience. So where will you do it? You're going to do it. Your foundation practicum, let me specify, will be in the St. Louis region. This is a large metropolitan area with lists incredible opportunities to learn and grow and develop those competencies that are preparing you for practice. And so within about a 50+ radius of the city, there is just hundreds of opportunities. And then we can go to the next slide. And the next slide is, when will you complete foundation practicum? So this is during your first year with us. In that first year, you're completing, it's the second semester. So if you're coming in doing a 2-year program with us, which is what most students do, that second semester is when you start foundation practicum. But your first semester is really important. Your mission is to search and secure. So during that first semester, you're thinking about what type of experience do you want to have. You're doing some searching, and then you secure it. That includes your interviewing with maybe several different sites in the fall, and making sure that as you go into that transition time before the second semester, you have a placement, and we will support you with that. Most students start their foundation practicum in the spring semester. Since you are completing 360 hours, you have to be thoughtful about how you're going to do that over your spring semester. You can also do it over spring and summer and continue into the summer. Also, your spring is when you're going to take that foundation, integrated foundation practicum seminar. That's that 1 credit hour course where we're supporting you through that entire process of your first semester in your foundation practicum. At this point, I'd love to turn it over to Alison. She's going to talk to you about your concentration practicum.
Thank you, Atia. So what will I be doing during my concentration practicum? Concentration practicum basically is 600 hours of practicum hours that you're utilizing within one of our various organizations that we have available for students. As Atia had previously mentioned, we are affiliated with over 400 sites here in St. Louis. However, there are many more outside of the St. Louis area, nationally as well as internationally. So where will I complete my practicum? Depending on where you decide that you're actually going to go with practicum, you can practice locally, nationally, and for those students who are deciding to move toward an international based type of practicum, those can actually be completed globally. as well as globally virtually. Since students are actually allowed to leave town during your concentration practicum, they're usually completed during the summer to avoid conflict with classes and such. However, it is an opportunity for you to experience things even outside of the St. Louis area. Okay, so when I complete your concentration practicum, when will you do that? Students are usually starting to look at concentration practicum opportunities in the mid to late spring, so that March and April type of time frame, and usually starting as with the foundation practicum, interviewing with these practicum pursuits are kind of happening in the spring as well as into the summer. So students starting their concentration practicums are either going to start them in the summer if they are advanced standing or completed their foundation practicum in its entirety, or in the spring or in the fall. They're going to go ahead and continue they're going to start their concentration practicum into the spring and possibly move on throughout the summer. So who will offer support during the practicum search process? That's going to be us, the Office of Field Education. We are there to assist students with support in providing complete and total support on obtaining a practicum, maintaining that practicum, all the way from orientation, all the way through graduation. We assist with advising appointments on a regular basis. We have open advising, which is considered to be advisor of the day, or you can actually connect with someone specifically to have discussions about your practicum, whether it be seeking them or any kind of issues or concerns, or just general questions that you may have about what's available for you moving forward and what your next steps will be. And through all of us, field faculty, we're available to all students as needed. So whatever you have, we're there to help. Thank you, Lorien.
Yep. Thanks, Alison and Atia, for kind of overviewing our practicum process. We're looking forward to seeing if any students who are on here today, prospective admitted students here, have questions about that towards the end. So we just want to talk a little bit about where we've been during the pandemic. So for the last few years, we have had a wide variety of course formats. As you heard from both Alison and Atia, we've looked really broadly at what direct practice looks like, even through practicum. And so we had students who were doing virtual practica. We had classes that were being held virtually. We had some that were being held in person and some through a hybrid format. We anticipate we will be back in person, and that is the predominant course format that you should expect starting in next academic year. This is obviously guided by public health and university protocols. We are always staying on top of those. We have recently moved to a mask optional campus, and then as rates began to kind of increase among the graduate population, has been additional guidance that is coming out. And so sometimes that is week by week in terms of what to expect, but the university has a really good, really clear communication protocol that they let students know what might be going on. We have discovered that there were some changes that happened during the pandemic that we sort of liked. So for example, having advising and faculty office hours being virtual as opposed to having to come to campus to meet with me as a faculty member or any of your advising folks. We really found that it's reduced some barriers for students to be able to Zoom into our virtual office hours. So we anticipate that we will continue to have virtual office hour options for advising as well as for faculty office hours, as well as some in person. So I know for next academic year, I'll host in-person office hours before or after a class day that I'm on campus teaching, and then I'll have virtual office hours on another day of the week. And even if I'm in my office for in-person office hours, you are welcome to Zoom on in. I have Zoom at home, I have Zoom at work. So we are offering ultimate flexibility, which we think will really, again, continue to benefit students. And we heard a lot about how they appreciated the flexibility that we were able to offer. And again, as the whole world started to think about what does virtual employment look like, so did our practicum agencies. And so over the years, the last few years, students were in practica where they were primarily virtual. And then again, some of these will be back in person, some will be virtual, and some will be some hybrid. This is where using Alison, Atia, and all of the other field faculty will be really helpful to kind of determine what agency kind of service delivery models look like. We mentioned advising in a couple different ways. So you have what we really think of as a holistic advising process. So you have an academic advisor. This is usually a staff person who works at the Brown School who makes sure, we think of them as sort of like the compliance officer. Like they make sure that you register for the classes that you need, make sure that you are prepared to have all of the credits that you need for graduation. They also are a great kind of point of contact for any additional academic support resources that you may need. So they know what's happening in terms of supporting students both within the classroom and beyond the classroom. You will have access to a faculty advisor. So I'm one of many faculty advisors, and my role is a little bit more broad than the academic advisor role. And so in this role, I get to kind of help you think through, like, how do you want to tell the story of what you're able to do when you graduate from the Brown School? How do you want to tell a story around what you were doing before you came to us? How are you pairing that with a curriculum, with a concentration and specialization and your practicum experience, and knowing that there are lots of stories you can tell. Part of our job as faculty advisors is to kind of help you figure out which story you want to tell and then how to tell that story. So we may make suggestions about practicum, or we may be able to help you kind of connect a volunteer experience that you had in the past to a skill that now you're enhancing through practicum. So we really like meeting with you for that more professional development perspective. And then again, as you heard from Alison and Atia, you have field education advisors who will support you from the very beginning and then all the way through that time. You'll have a specific field ed advisor, as well as what's really fun about the faculty advisor of the day is you can hop into office hours, virtual or in person, and meet with anyone if you have a very emergent question. So we promised we were going to move through this fast enough to give you the opportunity to ask us questions. I think Sarah has maybe been monitoring the chat. So if there's anything that has come up in the chat, we will tackle those things now. Elena?
Hi, yeah. So in concerning the fact that we get to be able to choose our first year practicum and our second year practicum, do you guys have any sort of overarching themes that you like to stick to? Like at the beginning, focusing primarily on larger organizations, larger institutions with more like variety of like people, and then going smaller into certain routes? Like, is that like something or is it just like up to us?
It really has a lot to do with your intention. So let me just give you an example. We have students, your foundation practicum first and foremost is foundational. It does not have to match or align with your concentration yet. So students who are like, I haven't declared concentration yet, or I'm looking to explore, foundation might be a great time to look for something that's like, I'm not sure if I want to declare that as my concentration, and I would like to get a little more experience or exposure in that specific like sort of concentration area. So that's a great, like, it's very exploratory. Foundation is a great time to maybe say like, I think I want to do direct practice, but I'm not sure. Maybe I'll try to do like an experience that allows me to have some direct practice, but some meso and macro and a little bit of policy. You can do that. And concentration is great because you can actually break up concentration over 2 experiences if you want, but it really is going to be a lot of up to you. So while we want to make sure the sites have strong learning experiences, we make sure that the field instructors are trained and are vetted essentially. It's really going to be up to you in terms of what do you want out of that experience, and being thoughtful about putting together those elements that will give you, the skills and the knowledge and the experience that you're hoping to leave here with. Also, I just want to let students know, when you come here, you're here for like 2 years, and a lot happens in those 2 years. It's a very intense learning journey. It's the beginning of your career. Please keep that in mind. So while you were earning a master's, it is the beginning of your career as an MSW, MPH, MSP. So you're not meant to get everything out of it in 2 years. It's just the start.
It really is. It really is a beginning, and it's an opportunity, especially with foundation practicum, for you to learn the basis, the base of being a social worker, that level of engagement, assessment, and providing resources to your clientele. While it takes a step, you go a step further when you're looking at concentration, where you're looking at more of dealing with your skills and fine-tuning your techniques and looking at all the different opportunities and practices that are available to you. So keep that in mind as well.
All right, so most of the questions in the chat are about practicum. I'm going to get to Brandon, who has raised their hand. So I'll get Brandon's first, and then we'll move through the questions in the chat.
Thank you so much. So a couple questions. So as a non-traditional student who's already been at an agency for 8 years, that was one of my primary concerns about going to grad schools, because I knew there were practicum requirements. What are the limitations regarding doing practicums within your own agency? I recognize, obviously, I wouldn't be able to do the same job that I currently complete, but I already have a focus on what I want to do. I want to work with individuals with sexual offenses. Unfortunately, my agencies, that's what we currently already deal with. So I'm a little concerned about finding a site that doesn't have clients to go to my agency, basically. So would I be able to outsource that through maybe not necessarily locally or through a hybrid thing, to where I'm not kind of ethically, there's that ethical consideration and, with clients being there. Does that make sense? My question? I don't know if it does.
No, it does. It absolutely makes sense. So my question, are you here in St. Louis or are you out of state?
Oh yeah. Yeah, I work for Criminal Justice Ministries, and we've had multiple Brown students as practicum students, and I've supervised a couple of them. So this is just, well, not supervised, but oversaw them in my agency. So I'm a little just confused as how I'm going to navigate that. That may be a more intense question I need to work with individually with you all, but from a broad perspective, I just wanted you all's input.
So from a broad perspective, yes, there are ways of doing that. We have many people coming in as either advanced standing or even as a foundation student who are looking to either pursue further what they're working in right now, or even look at other opportunities for themselves within that realm of the area that they're looking in, but maybe look at something that you haven't done previously. So we could actually work with you in working with your organization that you're working with now, in addition to finding another organization that may have similarities that you would like to work on, and just kind of tweak it to assist you. So your situation is individual. So we would work with you and to pursue those goals for you.
Perfect. And I've already chosen Brown, so I'm coming in the fall. So thank you.
Look forward to seeing you, Brandon.
Money is paid, so we're in.
All right, so we're answering a couple of the questions in the chat, but I want in actually answering them in the chat, but this one I'd like to call out into our space. Is there any advice from our field faculty about how to secure a paid practicum experience?
That's such a great question. And I want to say paid practicum, like in my days, 20 years ago, was such a unique unicorn. So I'm really excited that more and more practicums are really trying hard to create paid and compensated experience. But practicum is such a critical part of your learning experience. So you're still learning, you're not working, you're in this great sort of hybrid role of being an active participant in your learning and in practice. So securing paid practicum, one of the things is to look at, we send a lot of communications to students. So a lot of opportunities come our way where people are recruiting, sites are looking, and if they're paid, they usually advertise that. And so if you're paying attention to the Office of Field Education, we are sending you tips and information almost every week in the fall and spring semester about opportunities. And the ones that are paid, you just have to pay attention to them. But another great question to ask is, when you're interviewing with those opportunities, if they're not advertising that they're paid, you can ask, is there some type of compensation structure? Is there a stipend? Just also ask. They're getting more and more sites are used to students inquiring about this, and more are really trying to create a structure to offer some type of compensation. So in our databases, it doesn't necessarily tell you if it's paid. And I don't I know it's important to you, but I also don't want that to be like, you're going to have a whole set of criteria as you're thinking about the field experience. Paid is just one piece of that criteria as you're looking for experiences. But yeah, we do try to let people know when an experience is paid. The organizations are really great about advertising that. So just pay attention to the communications.
Thanks, Atia. So there's a question in the chat about the pros and cons of testing out of taking the proficiency exam for research methods as opposed to taking the Brown Schools course. So what I would say about this is it does not hurt you at all to take the proficiency exam. If you don't pass it, it doesn't go on your transcript. It just means you stay in the research methods course. If you do pass it, then it opens up an additional 3-credit elective for you. So in terms of pros and cons, if you look at our extensive course offerings and you're really excited about multiple classes that you're not sure how you would fit into that 60-hour requirement, then that would be something to say, like, I'd love to have one additional elective, right? And so it doesn't hurt you to take the proficiency exam. If you don't pass it, then you stay in our research methods class. If you know that you have a really strong research background, I would say definitely take it, because if you have a really strong background and you think, oh, I'll take it at the Brown School, you might find yourself a little frustrated that it is a repeat of what you already know. Because for many students, again, especially those who maybe come in as a concert violinist or someone who's taught physics in the past, social science research methods are very brand new to them. And so the course at its foundational level is really designed to make sure that they understand what social science research methods looks like. So if you already have a really, really great kind of background in that, then you might find that you would be more fulfilled in having an extra elective. A couple questions showing up about when do you take the proficiency exams. Those I'm not sure of the dates yet, but admissions will send out that information at some point. I think midsummer, when they're sending out registration information, there'll be the details about taking those proficiency exams. Anything else? So I think we've caught what's coming up in what's in the chat. Does anyone else want to raise hand and get some? There we go. Alice, what can we do for you?
Hi, thank you so much. How do I phrase this? So I'm having a hard time conceptualizing how this all fits into 2 years. So I was just wondering if you could sort of sketch out, like, I mean, I know we kind of talked about like where the practicum fits in, but just sort of like how many classes you need to take each semester to make sure that by the end of the 2 years, you're where you need to be.
Absolutely. Yeah. And some people are very visual, and it's very helpful to kind of see like the 2-year visual. So I don't have the slide on the 2-year visual. I'm sure admissions has some version of that. But what I will say is kind of broadly, Alice, the first semester, most of our students take 4 to 5 courses. We sort of say, first semester is a great opportunity to have a few more courses because you're not in practicum yet. Second semester of your first year, you will be in the rest of your foundation courses plus your foundation practicum. And again, thinking about, you're going to do 3 credits of practicum, that 360 hours, usually across spring and summer. Some practicum agencies are sort of summer heavy. So, you might find that it's easy for you to take a full course load because you're getting orientation and some training and some shadowing and observation in practicum. But then summer is where you're going to really be doing the bulk of your field experience. In other organizations, summer is less busy and spring is more busy. And so that's really agency specific. I think it's a great question to be asking when you are looking for practica, like how do you see these 360 hours sort of balancing out across those semesters? And that'll sort of help you think about, where to have a kind of a heavier course load than others. There were some questions in the chat about the expectation to take summer courses. We've moved around this in a lot of ways. So like Atia, I am also a graduate of the Brown School. And when I was in grad school at the Brown School, there were a lot of summer course offerings. So I really did spread my 2-year degree out over both summers. So I took courses after my first year and took my final program eval class and 1 credit of my concentration practicum in the summer after my second year. So I technically graduated in August. But I already knew that my concentration practicum was going to hire me, so I wasn't super anxious about getting a job over the summer. I decided to make my life a little easier in that spring semester and not overload that with my program evaluation course. So those kinds of decisions were really easy for me to make back in the day. We have kind of ebbed and flowed with summer course offerings. We do have some. A lot of them tend to look like our 1 credit skills labs. We have a really robust offering of professional development programming during the summer. And those are hybrid, not hybrid in terms of format, but they are offered to both degree seeking students and professionals in the community as part of what we call a summer institute. So for example, this summer, I'm teaching a foundation grant writing skills lab that degree seeking students are welcome to take, as well as there will be professionals in the community who want to learn about writing philanthropic grants who will take that course as well. So those are the kinds of offerings we have now. We are moving more towards having more summer offerings again. But again, I would say, that's another place to just think about if taking a summer class gives you a little bit of like a pressure valve release when you're thinking about, kind of where you want to be heavy in your semesters or not be heavy in your semesters. So I'm hoping that, again, there's sort of like, it depends is my favorite answer, but I'm hoping that just gives you a little better sense of how our students sort of make decisions around that.
Yeah, and I just want to echo Lorien, like the same way. I came in with a BSW, but I did not take the advanced standing option. So I actually did 2 full years at the Brown School. And it does happen, it does work, but you do want to be thoughtful. So my first spring, I did a full foundation practicum, 360 hours, phenomenal experience. They actually hired me after that to work part-time. So over the summer, I had part-time work. And then I did a paid internship that summer as well. And then I started the fall semester taking courses and starting concentration practicum, or actually I did most of my concentration practicum in my spring semester that I graduated. So it's a little bit of how it's a little bit about what courses you want to take, when they're offered, how you want to pace yourself, and what experiences you want to have. There's a whole team of us that work with you on trying to map that out. We will meet with you as many times as you like. Actually, we will, to think about how to integrate all of the different parts of your learning experience and make it meaningful to you. I also want to say that you're going to learn and be prepared no matter what. And sometimes in the mix of it, there's going to be all this like, oh, I'm kind of anxious, or I'm not sure how it's going to play out. And it always does. So I want to say that because we've graduated thousands and thousands at this point of what we call change makers, change agents. And it really does. I just want to help you to come into this feeling calm and knowing that you're going to have a great support system.
So Sarah has put the link in the chat for folks who like the visual. Sarah, do you know what the current messaging is around costing extra to take courses over the summer? I know this has been sort of a moving target that we've continued to work on. I just don't know, Sarah, like, is there a link that you can provide, or is that something that we'll have more details on later in the spring or summer?
Yeah, that's you said it exactly, Lorien, that we don't have that finalized just yet, but we know that is a concern for our students. And so we will have more information on how folks can take advantage of summer courses without that potential added tuition. So more to come, but I think it's going to be very exciting for our students.
Anything else? We've cleared what's in the chat. We have just a few more minutes. All right. So if there are no more questions, we just want to say a quick thank you. I'm going to turn it over to Sarah Dexter. She's got a little reminder about what's happening in the rest of the day in the next few days. But Atia, Alison, and I are really thrilled to be able to welcome you into our potentially, we'd love to see you here in the fall. And we look forward to supporting you once you get here.
Thank you so much, Alison, Lorien, and Atia. It's such a joy to share the screen with y'all for a moment. But as y'all can see, we have a lot going on today and the rest of the week. So today, if you would like to join Lorien later on, see her fabulous face again, you can take a lecture with her. Self-care is not selfish. I actually did this last year. It was fantastic. It was much needed, so needed this time last year. So that was definitely a joy. You can also attend a lecture with Ryan Lindsay, preparing social work students to respond to individuals experiencing suicidal behavior. He's another fantastic faculty member, as well as an option to attend The Rent is Too Damn High, Issuing Cutting and Housing Crisis with Molly Metzger. But honestly, very hard to choose from these sessions. They're all fantastic people and such good instructors and facilitators. So if you're not, obviously you're not able to join all of them, but there will be recordings of these. So pick one and you can watch those recordings later on. We will also have student ambassador office hours this evening. So if you want to chat with a current student, one of our student ambassadors, it's a great time to connect. We'll also have more hours on Friday. So if you're not able this evening, you can pop in on Friday. And then at 7 p.m., we have our MSP curriculum and field education overview. So even if you're not admitted to the MSP program, but you're curious, I highly recommend attending. It's a fantastic opportunity to learn more and to connect with some of our fantastic colleagues there. I have seen a couple questions around recordings. All sessions will be recorded unless it's like a breakout session or more individual conversation based, like our student group session on Thursday. That will not be recorded. Outside of that, all sessions will be recorded. And as Brianna said, we'll be uploading those to our YouTube channel. And I believe we'll be posting those on the website as well at a later date. We know there's a lot of stuff going on. There's over 20 sessions to attend. So you can't do it all, but I recommend prioritizing those sessions that are most important to you and engaging in those and asking your good questions, because we've had a lot of good questions. So I think that's enough for now, but thank you again for joining today. We're so happy to see your faces here, and we would love for you to join us more throughout the week. Thank you so much, and hope you all take care.
Take care, everybody.